Hey guys, welcome back to Jowers Technology Solutions. So for those that don't know me, my name is Dylan and I own Jowers Technology Solutions, and I recently opened up an office in Aiken, South Carolina. So I've gotten a few comments over the last couple months about how to do the new Wazuh server. And for those that don't know, Wazuh is basically a host intrusion detection system. So you basically build a server, and then you install all the Elasticsearch, Kibana, and Filebeat, and then you also install Wazuh on it so that it can import logs. And the purpose of a host intrusion detection system is to import logs, and so you can see what's going on a particular agent. And so the last thing I did was I believe it was a video on the 3.13 version agent, and they've already moved to Wazuh 4.1, and so I'm going to go ahead and do a video on that. So I'm just going to jump straight into it as I usually do. It's been a while since I've done a technical video, so just follow along as best you can, and we'll get through it. Alright, so right here I have my root at lab his tac 1, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure it's updated. So I've already done that, but I'll just show you the command up there. So I'll do the apt get update, apt get upgrade, apt get dist upgrade, and reboot. And so I'm going to take the reboot out because I'm pretty sure it's all the way up to date, but I'm going to hit enter there, and then we're going to let it update. Alright, so that's done. And then if you want to, you don't have to, but you can go ahead and do the apt auto remove, and that will remove any software that's not needed. So once that's done, we can move on. So first thing you're going to do is do the first couple prerequisite commands, and it's got a few little pieces of software that need to be installed beforehand. And I'll provide any links to this stuff that are needed. And just so everybody's aware, this is for educational purposes only. I don't own any rights or anything like that to Wazuh. This is simply just educational. If anybody gets stuck on anything, this is simply how to install it. Alright, and then we're going to go and get the GPG key. And we're going to add the repository. And then we're going to do another apt get update. And since this is the all-in-one node, this is pretty straightforward. They have a clustered or a distributed installation, and that one's a little more complicated because you have to deal with certificates. But anyway, I'm going to do that in another video. So next you're going to move on, and you're going to install the open distro for Elasticsearch version. So I always throw a tac Y on the end of this so that if there's any, do you want to do this, then it automatically says yes for you. So this usually takes just a moment to download, so give it just a minute. Alright, and then you're going to go ahead and under the Elasticsearch configuration, you're going to curl down the YAML file. Alright, and then from there, go ahead and in the documentation it says Elasticsearch roles and users, so you go ahead and copy that whole command and paste it in there, and you can see the whole command right here. And again, all this is in the documentation, so if anybody feels lost right here, I know this is hard to keep up whenever somebody's jumping around back and forth, but this is the whole command, there's 3 different commands here. So just go ahead and hit OK, and it will paste all those in there. And also, for those that don't even know, I'm using TerraTerm, so you see a little T up there in the top left corner. So just keep that in mind. Alright, and then next we're going to go ahead and scroll down, and then we're going to remove the demo certificates. And that's what that looks like. And then next we'll be generating and deploying certificates. So go ahead and do that. Alright, and next we'll be doing the edit the instances.yaml file. So basically you're configuring all the certificates that are going to be generated. Uh-oh. Yeah, so I've made that mistake a few times. So there's the YAML file is already downloaded. So what you really need to do is copy and paste that there's a little thing right there that says edit home directory / / instances.yaml, and so you'll copy that. And then I always use nano, so I'm going to stick nano in there and then right click It's going to paste it in there for me. Hit enter, and then there we go. Alright, so here's what we're going to do with this. You can see my backspace key. Alright, so we're going to do lab tac HIDS tac 1, and then right now we're sitting on the .80, so we're going to do 10.1.1. I said 88 I meant. And then basically to try to keep things simple, I will usually copy this and then I will just backspace all this out and hit right click it and do it that way. Alright, and then just so nobody gets confused, this right here is the name that I'm calling the actual Elasticsearch node or the instance. And so right here I'm going to come down here. They're all on the same IP address because they're all on the same server. However, I'm going to change the actual name of the Wazuh server itself. So I'm just going to make this master node. And you'll see how this is relevant in just a few minutes when we generate those certificates. And this right here, I'm going to go ahead and call it Kibana server. And then since it's on the same server, I'm going to go ahead and type in the same IP address. Alright, so once this is done, yours should look similar to this, and then I'm going to hit Control O to save or to write the file, and then I'm going to hit Control X to exit back out. Alright, so from here, what we're going to do is there's a thing called Wazuh tac cert tac tool.sh, so it's a script to create certificates basically. So I'm going to right click that, and then just to make sure I'm grabbing everything correctly. Okay, it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the certificates, and then they can be found at home.search or current directory.search, excuse me. So all I need to do right here is do ls, and then under the root folder, and then there they all are. So that's where all your certs are sitting right now. Alright, so next what you're going to do, and this can get a little dicey, so bear with me. So the way Wazuh has it laid out is you can basically create an alias for the node that you're wanting to use. And so right here I'm going to right click that node underscore name equals, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say lab tac HIDS tac 1 because that's the name of my actual Elasticsearch node. So I'm going to hit enter on that, so that's creating an alias for the node name. Alright, so now I'll do this step by step just so everybody stays on page. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is make a directory for the make a search directory under Elasticsearch. And then it says to move it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead. Well, actually, I am going to move it for this only for this purpose though, because it can get confusing because if you have multiple servers or other devices that are holding your nodes, you want to be careful to where you put your certs at. And so right now, since it's all on one node, I'm just going to move the certs, and they're all going to still be there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this command. Alright, so this it did not put the M at the beginning. I must have missed it. So this is saying move your certs for that node, for the node I just assigned, and then move it to the Elasticsearch search folder under Etsy. Alright, so that's done. And then the next command is going to be move all the admin stuff. So right here, we just moved this guy, and I think those are the only two that were named lab HIDS. Yep. And so now what we're about to do is move anything beginning with admin. So admin tac key.pem, admin.pem, that's what we're about to move over now. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to copy the root tac ca. So go ahead and paste that in there. So we're about to copy the root tac ca and the root tac ca.pem. Alright, and this is very important because this confused me a couple times when I did this at first. So once you move your certs to the correct directory, after that you're going to name it so that Elasticsearch can read the files correctly, basically. So you're moving it, and anybody that knows Linux knows that whenever you move something from one thing to or let me explain this correctly. Whenever you move a file from that directory to the same directory but with a different name, that's how you rename in Linux. So what we're doing here is we're taking the .pem file, so the lab tac HIDS tac 1.pem, we're moving that and renaming it to Elasticsearch.pem. So I'm going to enter, and then we're going to follow suit with the tatkey.pem as well. Alright, so now what you do, if you do ls etc Elasticsearch certs, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see the admin PIMs that you moved. You're going to see the Elasticsearch.tatkey.pem and Elasticsearch.pem. These two right here were before were the labtakkids.1, and we just renamed them to those two. And then here's the root tac CAs that you moved. So hopefully everybody's on the same page with that. Sorry if I'm explaining it in a very confused manner. Happens that way sometimes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cd back to the search folder under root. And then we're going to tar the file. And so this is grabbing all the rest of it. Alright, so at this point what we're going to do next is we're going to actually do enable Elasticsearch and go ahead and start it. So I'm going to copy that command. So we're restarting the daemon, and then we're enabling Elasticsearch to start up whenever the server starts up, and then we're starting it right now. Alright, the next command we're going to run is the script to load the new certificates information and start the cluster. And to run this, I'm going to go ahead and copy this command in as soon as Elasticsearch gets done starting, because sometimes Elasticsearch takes a minute to start. Alright, there we go. And if you just want to verify that, I always go back and verify, because sometimes these services start and then they stop. Alright, so here we see that it is currently active, so that's good news. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and copy that command. And here's the key difference between the single node cluster, or the single node, and the distributed version, is that this command right here, you well, actually that's weird. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, anyway. Alright, so I guess I do need to put in the IP. For some reason I was thinking that it was different where you didn't have to put the IP in, but so I'm gonna go ahead and copy or paste this command in and then put my IP in so that it can verify everything. Alright, so if you get a similar output, that means that everything was successful and created and all that good stuff. Alright, so next what you're going to do is run a command to ensure that the installation is successful. So right here, make sure you replace your IP with the correct IP, or replace that with the correct IP address. And again, if you get a similar output, then you did it correctly. And here's another command that you want to run. According to the documentation, if you remove the performance analyzer, it will help out with performance on your server, so just keep that in mind. I do it because the directions say to do it. And another thing is, I just want to show you guys with Java, there's a JVM options up under here, and if you have, let's say you have an 8 gig server, if you do have 8 gigs, I would highly recommend you change this to 4. I usually give at least half of my server's memory to this guy, to the node. So go ahead and write that, exit out, and then make sure you restart Elasticsearch again to make sure it sees that. And I'll rerun those commands here just to make sure that everything's still good to go. And we're still getting good output, so good to go. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and install the Wazuh manager. And again, this takes just a moment, so bear with me. And with the single node cluster, this is pretty straightforward. Once you install the manager, you basically just start it. The only time you're messing with the actual clustering, if you have a master node and a worker node or whatever for Wazuh, it gets a little more complicated with make sure the settings are correct. But right here, once it installs, we'll just go ahead and run the command to reload the daemon, to enable Wazuh Manager, and to start it, and that's basically it for Wazuh. It's pretty, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Alright, so here's that command that I'm talking about. Is we're going to go ahead and reload the daemon, enable it, and start it. And again, just my opinion, you should always get back and check the status of whatever service is running just to make sure it's up and correct. Alright, and see we see it's active, so we're good to go. Alright, next we're going to install Filebeat. And this is a pretty fast install. Alright, awesome. So next we're going to download the pre-configured Filebeat configuration that Wazuh uses to send alerts to Elasticsearch. Alright, and there it is. And then we're going to download the alerts templates for Elasticsearch. So here what we're doing is we're downloading that template, and then we're giving it read access basically for the Wazuh template. Alright, and then right here we're going to curl down the module for Filebeat. And that's the output you should be getting whenever you do that. Alright, so next we're going to edit the YAML file for Filebeat. And again, this is pretty simple. The only thing you're changing here really is the IP address. And then make sure everything else looks good. I don't think we changed anything else in here. So there's a caveat to this. If you, it's obviously highly recommended to change the default credentials on any device you have. So there's a special tool that you can use that I will put down, or I'll show you the documentation for, that you can actually change the admin password. So just keep that in mind for later on. So I'm going to go ahead and Control O and write that, and then Control X out. Alright, now here's the next part. Again, this is with certificates, so bear with me. Alright, so I don't know if you noticed earlier, as a matter of fact, I'll go back to it real quick. And I know this is making this video a little long, but I want to make sure everybody understands the best we can. So let's go back to the instances.yaml. And so you remember that I created this with a master node name under the instances YAML. So let's exit out of that. And then I repaste what I just put in there. So we're going to put in a name. Oh, well, okay. Alright, so node underscore name, and then we're going to do equals, and then make sure you backspace that. There we go. Alright, so now our node name is aliased, or our master node is aliased to no name. Alright, then we're going to make a search folder, or a search directory under the Filebeat, and then we're going to move that search folder that we moved earlier. Well, actually, let me see. Let me make sure it's in the right spot. Search. Awesome, it still is. Okay, so earlier we decided to go ahead and tar all this search. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to say copy root search.tar, and we're just going to move the whole thing to the Filebeat directory under search, and then we need a cd to the same directory. Alright, so here's your search.tar. And then remember, we just aliased it, so we're going to go ahead and untar that folder, or untar that file rather. Alright, and then what this is going to do is you're going to basically extract the force extract the tar file, and you're going to pull out only the node that we just specified. So once we do this, hit ls, and you'll see your master node key.pem and your master tag node.pem, and then your root tag ca. Alright, and now what we're going to do is, again, we're going to move, or rename as we call it, those two files. So what this is going to do is going to take that nodename.pem and it's going to convert it to file.pem. And then the same thing with the tatkey.pem. Alright, so if you ls again, we're going to see the filebeat tatkey.pem or filebeat tatkey.pem and the filebeat.pem and the root tackca.pem. And then you can go ahead and remove this search.tar because we don't need it anymore, and we still have it in the other folder if we need to use it. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. So once again, double check, awesome, everything looks good right there. And so now we're going to go ahead and reload the daemon again, enable Filebeat, and start it. Alright, and then once again, I'm going to go ahead and do a status Filebeat just to make sure everything looks good with that. And it looks like things are connecting. And you can always space over just in case. And what you're looking for here is this connection to a back off established. So that's what you're looking for. Alright, and then further, they even put another command here, Filebeat test output. So if I put this in here and then you get this output where everything's connecting, TLS is good, then we're good to go. Alright, and then last but not least, we're going to install Kibana. So Kibana is a pretty big file, so if this takes a minute, feel free to skip ahead to the point where it's already installed. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and curl down the configuration file for Kibana. And then next we're going to go ahead and edit the YAML file. Alright, so right here you can kind of do what you will. Some people put the IP address of the server in so it can only be heard on that. Some people put in all zeros so that it will listen on any interface. It's entirely up to you. I usually do the 000, even though there's only one IP address to connect onto. So just bear that in mind whenever you're doing your configuration. Alright, so we're good to go there. So we'll go ahead and hit Control O to write it, and then Control X to get out of that file. And then also remember to, so next you're going to go ahead and create a user shared Kibana data directory. And then you're going to give Kibana, the Kibana user ownership of that file. And then you're going to change directories and go ahead and download the Wazuh plugin for Kibana. Alright, and then last but not least, again, I'm just going to go back and double check just to make sure my node name is correct, because contrary to popular belief, you can get screwed up pretty easily with this. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so it's going to be Kibana server, so make sure we grab the right thing. Alright, and we're going to copy this. Once again, we're going to rename the alias, but this time it's going to be Kibana server because that's what my Kibana node name is. And then again, I'm going to do this line by line just so everybody can see how it's done. Alright, so we're gonna again copy. I'm a bigger fan of copying the search.tar so something doesn't happen to it. And then we're gonna copy it to the Etsy Kibana search. Sorry guys, I skipped a command by accident. 1 second. Let's see here. I need to create the search directory under Kibana. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, so we're gonna copy root search.tar under Etsy Kibana search. There we go. And then here's another important thing. You want to make Kibana the owner of all the files under that directory. So, and that's what this command does essentially. All right, and then we're going to cd down there to that directory. All right, and then once again, same thing. We're going to go ahead and untar the files that we need, and then we're going to move We'll do the same thing before. We're going to move this file and rename them to Kibana key and Kibana.pem. And then we can go ahead and ls to confirm that. All right, that looks good. And we go ahead and remove the search.tar. And then from there, all right, and this is very important. I missed this the very first time I did this. The next command is to link Kibana's socket to privilege port 443, and that makes sure whenever you go to log into Kibana that you can get there correctly. And this is what that looks like. So just keep that command right there in mind as you go along. And then last but not least, we're going to go ahead and reload the daemon, enable Kibana, and start Kibana. All right, so at this point, you've installed everything, you've configured everything. The certificates should be good to go. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to your IP address of the server on port 443. Let's go ahead and try to restart Kibana real quick and make sure everything took correctly. And then check the status as well. Alright, so if you run an issue, attack L and it should give you a little more output. Alright guys, so this is the perfect example of running into a problem. So let's backstep just a little bit and see where we went wrong. And yes, in the past I've gone through this entire process and it was aggravating to get to the very end and then something not work correctly. I'm going to rerun that other command that I gave to Kibana a moment ago to make sure it took correctly. Alright, there it goes. So I had to redo that. Alright, so guys, so sorry about that, but that took a moment took 2 seconds to troubleshoot, thank goodness. And so once you get to this point, you reload it and then you maximize this window and it takes a moment to load. And so right here you get to this page and do admin. Alright, then you can go ahead and dismiss this warning up here. This is more or less irrelevant. Alright, then you're going to see all this stuff right here updating in the bottom right hand corner. Actually, my camera's in the way, sorry about that. Anyway, you're going to see a bunch of messages in the bottom right corner, but that's fine. It says not finding what it needs, so it starts creating what it needs. But you should see all these guys right here check off and start up, and bam, there we go. All right, so this, excuse me, guys. At this point, you fully created a server. Everything's good to go. So now you just start adding agents. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you at least one agent install, and then I know this is a pretty long video, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for now. and I'll probably do agent installs on another one on another video at some point. Alright, so I'm going to go in here and make sure I didn't have a previous install of Wazuh on this particular virtual machine. Alright, so you see right here where I do, and this is version 4.15, so apparently I probably used this virtual machine earlier this week to do this already, so I'm going to go ahead and uninstall this guy, and then reinstall it with the new server I just created. And what I like about Wazuh 4.1 is it's extremely easy to install a new agent. And then there's also another thing where you can force authentication, but I'll go over that in another video as well. Alright, so that's uninstalled, so now let's go ahead and install the new agent. So you're going to click on Add Agent. You're going to click on Windows, and then make sure you specify the correct IP address for your Wazuh server. In this case, it's the same one we've been using. And then you're going to, I just go ahead and use a default group. You can create your own group, so you can put groups of agents together or whatever you want to do, but for right now, I just want to do default. And then, of course, copy the PowerShell command. And then under my search bar, I'm going to, well, wrong button. I'm going to type in power s shell, however you want to get it to come up, and run as admin. And that's the key thing right there. Make sure you run it as administrator, and then give it the ability to run. There we go. And once this loads, it's a virtual machine, so it's a little slow. There we go. Go ahead and right click, and then you're gonna, I always backspace it. You know, there's a thing about spaces, especially in programming. I always backspace this command if it gives me extra space. So anyway, you're gonna hit enter right there, and you're gonna let it do its thing. Alright, and then you're going to hop right back over to the server, scroll up, and hit refresh. Might take a second to catch on. Okay, yeah, so it took it a moment to run everything else in the background. But once you see all those command prompts pop up and then leave, hit refresh again, and then there you go. Alright, so if you get this never connected, give it just a few seconds, and hit refresh again, and then bam, it'll be active. Alright, so at this point, we built the server, we've added an agent. The agent part was super easy, super quick. Just remember, I've done the thing. It has in the documentation where you can. It says here's a way to do it without uninstalling it. I have found it easier if you already have Wazuh in your environment. I have found it easier to uninstall the current agent and then install the new agent via PowerShell. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, guys, so this has been a video on the new Wazuh server. And I hope you guys liked it. I apologize if I misspoke about anything in Linux. I'm still becoming better at Linux, so I apologize for that. But I hope you guys liked it. Please comment, share, like it, and subscribe to my channel. But thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.